As the sun dipped behind the skyline of New York City, casting a warm golden hue over the bustling streets, Ethan found his gaze repeatedly drawn to the same bench outside the library. Every evening at exactly 5:30 p.m., there she was, a girl draped in a white sweater that seemed to glow against the backdrop of the twilight sky. Black headphones nestled comfortably over her ears, and in her hands, a tiny notebook danced with the weight of her thoughts. At first, she was just another stranger in the endless sea of faces that blurred into one. New York, with its cacophony of voices and hurried footsteps, often left little room for individuality. But Ethan soon realized there was something different about her. She bore an expression of wistful anticipation, as if she was waiting for a ghost, someone who never arrived. One cold October evening, the sky darkened ominously, and suddenly, rain poured down, drenching the city in a fine mist. People rushed for cover, umbrellas blooming like flowers in a storm, yet she remained, sitting there quietly, her notebook untouched, soaking in the downpour. Ethan hesitated for a moment, the warmth of his umbrella calling to him, before he finally stepped forward, his heart thumping in his chest. "You know it's raining, right?" he called out, the sound barely rising above the drumming of raindrops. She looked up slowly, her eyes glimmering like two pools of light amidst the gray. A soft, tired smile graced her lips. "I know." For reasons he couldn't explain, that simple answer lingered within him long after he left. The next day, she was there again, and the day after that too, a steadfast presence that drew him in like a moth to a flame. Slowly, he began to sit next to her after work, sharing the bench as evening shadows stretched long across the pavement. At first, their conversations were tentative, but gradually they blossomed into something deeper. Her name was Lily. She loved old novels, the kind that transported one to different worlds, rainy weather that muffled the city's noise, and vanilla coffee that warmed her from within. She hated loud people, and the finality of goodbye endings. Yet she avoided discussing her own life, keeping it locked away like a fragile secret. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that there was sadness woven into the fabric of her being, a kind of sorrow that felt permanent. One evening, the weight of curiosity pressed on him until he finally asked, "Who are you waiting for every day?" The moment the question left his lips, her smile vanished. "My memories," she replied quietly. At first, Ethan thought she was joking, but as she unfolded her story, the room seemed to shrink around them. 2 years prior, she had been diagnosed with a rare condition that slowly stole her memories, piece by piece. Initially, it was trivial things, a forgotten name here, an appointment there. But soon, the doctors delivered the cold, hard truth. One day she would forget everything, even herself. As he listened, Ethan felt a chill settle in his bones. He watched her gaze drift towards the library windows, where the reflections of people inside flickered like shadows. "That's why I come here every day," she said softly. "Because this is where I met the person I loved most." His heart clenched painfully. "Where is he now?" he asked, half dreading the answer. With a sad smile, she replied, "I forgot him already." Silence enveloped them, heavy and suffocating. Then, with a gentle vulnerability, she added, "I only remember that I loved someone enough to keep coming back here." In that moment, Ethan understood that the most heartbreaking part of her story wasn't just the loss of memories. It was the understanding that love could endure, even when everything else faded away. Weeks turned into months, and somehow, Ethan became part of Lily's routine. They shared coffee after work, wandered through quiet streets, and explored dusty bookstores on Sundays. Each moment, though small and simple, became a treasure to him. Yet there were painful days too. Sometimes Lily would forget conversations from the day before, or misplace things only moments after using them. Once, she completely forgot his name, and though he smiled through the pain, it felt like a dagger to his heart. Every morning, she greeted him with a smile, as if they were meeting for the first time, and he cherished that look of recognition. One snowy evening, sitting beside the river, she turned to him, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "If one day I forget you completely, would you stay?" Ethan took a deep breath, the weight of her fear resting heavily on his heart. "Every version of you is still you," he assured softly, and her tears fell quietly as she absorbed his words, fear and love entwined within her. One spring afternoon, filled with luster and warmth, Lily handed Ethan her tiny notebook, her eyes swimming in trust. Inside, he discovered hundreds of handwritten reminders about herself. "Your favorite flower is white lilies. You hate thunderstorms. You love old music." Then he turned the page to find a final note, written with careful grace. "If you forget him someday, read this carefully." His breath caught as he read what followed. "His name is Ethan. He makes you laugh when you feel afraid. He looks at you like you're still whole, even when you don't feel whole anymore. And if you forget everything else, please remember this: you loved him." Tears streamed down his face as he realized how deeply she had prepared herself to lose him, long before it happened. Months later, the shadow of her illness loomed larger. Some mornings, she woke up confused, lost within the walls of her own life. One evening, Ethan arrived at their bench to find her alone, tears spilling down her cheeks. When their eyes met, she whispered, a tremor in her voice, "I know you're important to me, but I can't remember why." Heartbroken, Ethan took her hand in his, feeling the warmth of connection in that simple gesture. "That's okay," he said softly, knowing that love wasn't just about clinging to memories. Sometimes, it was about choosing to love again and again, even as she faded away. A year passed, and Ethan still visited their bench every evening, a ritual of love that transcended the cruel grasp of forgetfulness. Some days Lily remembered him, other days she didn't. Yet every time, he introduced himself all over again. "Hi, Lily," he'd say gently. "My name is Ethan." And every single time, even on her worst days, a smile would break across her face, as if her heart recognized him, regardless of the fog enveloping her mind. In the end, he learned that real love is not bound by memory. It resides in the heart, unwavering and steadfast, even when the mind forgets.